Welcome to yet another live episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 473. I am your host, Michael. Joining me, usual cast of characters, Gail from nyfights.com, Daniel from For Boxing News, and the Inscriber. And I see, Daniel, you dropped a new episode about a week ago. So what's going on, lady and gent?
We are in the boxing dog days of summer, but there's
Man, listen.
still plenty to talk about, and we could all use a little bit of a refresher.
Yes, like the sport is just slowing things down on purpose just to feature and highlight Canelo and Bud um, about a month from now. So it is what it is. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report live YouTube show podcast discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is if it concerns or pertains to the speed science, it will get discussed. If you wish to email us with any uh, comments, questions, suggestions, etc., you can do so. P4P boxing at p4pboxingreport.com. If you check out the description below, uh, I've highlighted links to where to find Pound for Pound Box Report all over the socials, links to the Facebook page, links to the YouTube channel. Technically, we still got a Tumblr account, links to us on IG as well. Uh, If you wish to donate, let donation be the best nation. Cash Me and PayPal accounts. Cash Me has changed some things around. Um, so if you wish to donate $1, $2, $5, or whatever you wish to contribute, we will be eternally grateful. Cash Me has updated their policy so you can donate more if you wish to do so. Um, let's get things going by heading over to the UK. And the highlight fight of the weekend, this past weekend, excuse me, was kind of a crossroads battle, quote unquote, if you will, between young, rising heavyweight Moses Atuma, who's been getting a lot of buzz, particularly throughout the UK. He fought Dillian Whyte, who's been a mainstay in the heavyweight division for about a decade now. And I go to you, Gail. Surprising result for me. I felt that Atuma was going to win, but I did not expect him to blitz through White in the manner he did. I was covering the fight for 3kingsboxing.com. Shout out to everybody over there, the head of Three Kings Boxing 2K, um, head of media relations and senior writer Bo, who you heard on the show in the past, fellow senior writer Bakari, all the contributors behind the scenes. And I went to the kitchen to get something to drink. And by the time I got back, Gail, the fight was over. Inside 2 minutes, basically, uh, White was cooked, glazed, and sliced. What do you make of what transpired?
You know, Michael, when there's a heavyweight fight, I don't care who it is, you need to be in your seat at the opening bell because you never know. You never know. I agree. I figured Atama would take care of his business. As the week wore on toward the fight, seeing Dillian White really biting down on this fight, attending to his training, and when he weighed in at 244, which is the lowest he's weighed in almost 10 years for a fight, that told me he took this very seriously. Did it mean he was going to win? I didn't think that, but I did think he'd be competitive. And again, heavyweights, they could both punch. Anything can happen. It's just a very different formula. Having said that, I admit I have been on the Moses Itama train and I expected him to win. But yeah, I did not expect that. That was oh my God, I'm out of my seat for the last minute of that fight. What an impressive display. I have gone from being on the train to having a first class reserved seat on the hype train. I don't do that very often. I really don't. And a lot of us are trying to temper our enthusiasm, but hell, there's no reason. We have been looking for somebody to be the next face of boxing, a rising star, and who better than a heavyweight, a young one, a charismatic one, who's a great interview, who passes the eye test, who so far has not put one foot wrong. Now, he's only had 13 fights, but he's done everything right so far. The potential is limitless. This is a very, very fun time to be a Moses Itauma fan, watching what he did to Dillian Whyte. He absolutely disarmed him. And even though the fight was over in 1 minute and 59 seconds, he didn't rush it. He didn't smother himself. His punch selection is out of this world. He's accurate. He's fast. His footwork is good. What's not to love? It's hard not to get excited. And strictly from a fan perspective, why would you want to deny getting excited about this? However, when we start talking about his near-term future, we do need to exercise a little bit of caution. But just simply from an enjoyment perspective, what a great performance.
And your last point, that's what I'll begin before switching to Daniel, right? I don't want to sound or come off as contrarian or what some will claim as a hater for those who have listened to this episode. That last point was like, wait a minute, let's temper down some of the enthusiasm, right? One, I hear you. I concede your points about Whyte, and particularly how he looked at the weigh-in. The problem for me is the day/night of the fight. I didn't get good vibes from him, whether it be during the interview in the dressing room, uh, and even during the ring walk. Um, I'm used to seeing a Dillian Whyte even more animated, howling on 100, right? And I just didn't get that. And so that coupled with how he looked, part of me is like, okay, he may not have had the pepper, um, not fight night, right? Two, and I'll go to you on this one, Daniel. To Gail's last point, um, Itauma, right? Terrific talent, arguably the best prospect in all of boxing. But I hear and see people going overboard in terms of where he stands vis-a-vis the division now. Uh, was it impressive that he still got rid of Whyte in the manner that he did? Um, yes. Is he a supremely gifted talent? Yes. But I'm already hearing and seeing the names of Usyk, Parker, in the suggestion, throw him in there, deep waters now. No, 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 no. Let's hold up on that. Let the kid get some seasoning. Let him get some experience. Um, let someone toughen him up a little bit before um, you put him in there with the big dogs in the division.
Yeah, that's we have to temper expectations in a bit when it comes into launching Moises into the deep waters. But one thing that's able to tell is, unfortunately, when we predicted this fight, I did say that Dillian Whyte was falling into the Derek Chisora role when it comes to boxing in the UK. He's supposed to be a tough customer, a guy that's going to give you every bit of a fight, but it's going to be a domestic challenger at most. And it's going to be the barometer whether you're ready for either European level talent or there at the world stage. And Dillian Whyte didn't even unfortunately get into that threshold. Now, I do agree with you, Mike, that Dillian Whyte didn't have the same fire that he normally has during fights. But I think he's because he understands now the position that he's in. You're not going to become a miracle person that gets into be a contender in the division. Even the division is going to be in a year from now completely in flux. But this was a good showing by Moises. Like I said, he showed good footwork. He showed good combinations. And for Dillian Whyte is going to... It does look to me like he probably is contemplating hanging it up. And it's going to be one of those what-if questions when it comes to his boxing. What if he was able to get the Deontay Wilder fight instead of Povetkin? What if he hurt Anthony Joshua more to the body than he did when they fought early on in their careers? But for what this was, which was supposed to be a showcase for Moises, it did its job. Now, we have to calm down again on the expectations, because you literally went for somebody that was going to be at domestic level, and you're throwing him against the cream of the crop in the division. I get UK fans want to still keep that role, that position, but you got to let the kid have a little bit more fights in that area. Because like I said, this division is a year from now is going to be in complete flux.
Given what Daniel just said and what I was what I said, the question now is what's not just what's next for Itauma. The question is, who would you like to see him in there in terms of giving him a serious test? I have a theory on that. I wrote about it for Three Kings over the weekend. There are some other names out there, and for me, it would be Hrgovic, who fought on the undercard. We'll talk about him in a bit. I've heard what's the top ranked heavyweight? Torres. I've heard Big Baby Anderson as well. Who would you like, Gail and Daniel, to see the supremely talented kid? And I have to emphasize that. Get his real test against before he tries to fight for a world title.
Well, looking at the landscape, the promoters involved and so forth, absolutely agree with you that Filip Hrgovic would be an excellent matchup. However, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, here in a few minutes, Hrgovic is not going to be ready to fight again this year because of the cut he suffered in his winning effort over the weekend on the undercard. So, without Hrgovic there, I would like to see him in maybe against one of the top 10 or 15. Agi Kabayel has been mentioned. That's an interesting thought. He's certainly available. The Saudis like him. They do business with him. I'm not sure Richard Torres would be so great. Jared Anderson's washed. I'd be surprised if we see him in a decent fight again. You know, he was talking about retiring before he got wiped out.
Yeah, but he's up. He's up on social now, Gail, talking about name me a heavyweight who's done more
Well, good luck
or
with
fought
that.
competition in the last few years. I ain't done yet. Okay, all right,
I'll tell
man.
you who would
You
be.
heard that top rank? Put his
I
ass up in
know.
there against
I
Itauma
know.
then.
Here's a guy who I think's realistic, would be fun. Despite his recent record, people enjoy seeing him. Put him in with Martin Bacoli.
Not a bad option. Not a
I
bad
think
option
that's
at
the
all.
best option. I would have said Hrgovic if he had come out of his fight clean, but he didn't. So, with Itauma saying that he wants to fight one more time this year, hell, he didn't even go around. He barely warmed up, so he's ready to go. But yeah, let's see. I mean, if I really wanted to mess some plans up, you could throw him in with somebody like Denier Pero.
It's here not before I go to you, Daniel.
But I
Are
don't
you there,
think.
Gail?
Yeah,
Okay.
I the other guy that's floating around out there who I enjoy watching, who barely survived his last fight, actually, is the Cuban heavyweight prospect Bob Santos is training Daniel Pero, who has a fight here coming up pretty quick. I'd like to see how he performs, but I don't think they're on a path where the roads cross. Not just yet. And I don't think Santos would risk Pero at this point. So really, I do think Bacoli is in the right spot, the right guy. He'd sell the fight. He's good for the payday. The fans like him. And he provides a point of comparison because he has been in with other guys we know. He's been in with Parker. He's been in with Anderson. We the fans are familiar with what he has to offer, and where Itauma matches up against that provides him another point of comparison, which is important. No, he is not going to fight Usyk. I don't care what Turkey says. And he shouldn't fight Parker either. Parker deserves his shot, for Pete's sake, against Usyk. That's the right fight. And there is really no reason for Usyk and Itauma to cross paths. Usyk is heading toward retirement. He does need to fight Parker, really important, to get that fight done for a lot of reasons. It's just, for once, boxing needs to do something right, and that's the right thing to do. After that, let Usyk take a victory lap. Let him earn a big farewell payday against Jake Paul. I don't care what he does at that point. His legacy is assured.
I would love for him to just take care of business against Paul.
I'll tell you
Let
what,
that
it would be fun, wouldn't it?
Put that on the top of my list. You know how I feel about that.
The lead up to the fight would be a riot, because Usyk would probably have the time of his life clowning around with Jake Paul. He is a funny dude, and he's got a wicked good
And
sense.
Paul thinks that he's a special wordsmith and special in the boxing psychology. No, he's not. Not with Usyk. No, sir. No, ma'am. No,
They
ma'am.
both have a lot of good. That'd be so much fun, and they'd make a buttload of money. They'd fill a stadium. Yeah, I mean that would just be for sheer entertainment value. I mean, he's talked also just crazy talk about getting in the cage with somebody, and God bless him. I love the fact that Usyk is enjoying his ride, in addition to his excellence. It's great. And if you haven't seen the video of him dancing around with his little toddler daughter, it's absolutely charming. But that's what needs to happen. I saw that comment from Compliance, Restoration and Roofing, our follower, about Zhang. I think Zhang might be close to being done. He might want to do, sort of a showcase farewell fight in China where he'd be a massive draw. But I'm not sure I care to see Itauma in against him. But you know what? Weirder things have happened. Here's what I don't want to see. No Deontay Wilder. No, no, no.
Agreed. Let me read out some comments here before I go into Daniel. Again, shout out to Compliance, Restoration, and Roofing. He says, and I'm going to put him up again. He says that the kid, Itauma, has some nice footwork for heavyweight. MG asks, do we have any good heavyweight prospects on this side of the pond? I'm keeping my eye on Joshua Edwards out of Houston, but I'm disappointed that I don't have any faith in American heavyweights. You're not alone in that. And to answer your question, prospects on this side of the pond that's on the level of Itauma, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not even close. Sorry, Richard Torres fans. He fights Itauma. Itauma stops him as well. He also, MG says, I would not be mad at the prospect of Itauma fighting Big Baby Miller.
Yeah.
Why? Because Big Baby, he has
either.
a chin.
Yeah.
He has a chin. And for someone of his size, he has stamina. So Itauma would have no choice but to go rounds. Now, if he stops that dude, that's impressive. That's really impressive.
And again, Miller will help sell the fight, especially in the United States. Let's remember this card over the weekend was very under the radar. There's a lot of other stuff going on. You had a big UFC card, pay-per-view. And this card was a pay-per-view for $50, which was ridiculous. Only a hardcore like those of us would, be watching that thing. Fans who also wanted to see the UFC card weren't going to lay out their $80 for that and $50 for this when they could see the highlights on YouTube. And for that matter, a few hours after the fight, you could see the whole damn fight on YouTube because it was 2 minutes and save your $50. But with Miller against him, he talks it up. Say what you will about his big damn loud mouth. He draws attention, and that's valuable, especially at this stage of the Thomas career. So you're right about that. Would be a pretty good matchup. But either way, there are options, and those options should not in any way include Alexander Usyk or Joseph Parker.
And even Caballero, I would argue, Gail and Daniel, I go to you because just like Parker has earned his world title shot, in my opinion, AJ Caballero, he's earned a world title shot. Should Usyk give up a belt or just outright retire next? So I wouldn't want that fight either because if you've earned a title shot, doggone it, you should get it. Why you should have one more step against this young kid, right? I go to you, Daniel, given the conversation now, given the comments, and for those who are checking us out on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share as well. Wrap up this conversation about Itauma and what you think his team should do for him moving forward.
But Cody probably would be my shot. It's an entertaining fight. Like I said, you could sell it in the UK, so it could be a good domestic fight. And the fans love him. So that's the fight that would probably shoot in that area. I probably would stay away from this side of the Atlantic, not because of the level of competition, just because of the overall nature of things that are happening, unfortunately, in that area. And if I'm top rank, I'm saving my ammunition.
Sadly, the overall vibe of boxing in the U.S. is not good. It really isn't.
It's not. But like I said, given how the division may look in a year, I would say save your ammunition.
Indeed. Let's move on to some other fights. I'll go back to you. No, I'll go back. Yeah, I'll go to you, Daniel. Go back to you, Daniel. Nick Ball, co-main event, quote unquote, if you will, has a world belt at 126 WBA version, right? Fought Sam Goodman, who was supposed to fight in a way down at 122. Didn't happen, moved up to 126. Competitive contest. Ball got the decision, but in watching the fight, Daniel, I felt the match could have gone either way. I could make an argument of what Goodman did, particularly through the first 9, maybe even 10 rounds of that fight. I felt he had the lead until Ball came on in the championship rounds, right? The point of all of this is, in this fight, the camp of Nick Ball has been talking a lot over the past 6 months about a fight with Inoue. Based off of this performance and based off what I've seen in recent outings for Nick Ball, is he ready for a new way? No. It's coming off as money grab-ish as the reason they want that fight. Your thoughts?
Oh, man. That 117, 111, and 118, 110 cards, those cards were filled out before the fight even started.
Absolute joke. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, again, look at when you see this fight, you see Sam Goodman doing excellent work to the body. Excellent work from the body from the beginning. Making sure that even though Ball was, remember, he's only 5'2", but he's been in that weight longer. and he is known to crack late. So to take him off early with those body shots, that was brilliant. That was a brilliant game plan from Sam Goodman. And you could tell that bothered Ball throughout the fight, even though he got his motor running a little bit more in the middle rounds. By round 7 and round 8, you started to see getting him into a little bit more rhythm. But at the same time, you also saw Sam Goodman make enough adjustments to make sure that this fight didn't get away from him. So that itself should have told you that 115, 113 card was more in line with what the fight was. And you could do 115, 113 either way. I would have had no problem with Sam Goodman winning the fight. As much as I don't have a problem if it was 115, 113 all the way around, Nick Ball winning the fight, because you do have to get the champion the benefit of the doubt. Like I mentioned, he was coming in later in the close to the late middle rounds, and it's near the end of the fight. He was starting to rock Goodman a little bit, but he didn't rock him as good as he could have gotten because of that body work by Sam Goodman. I've been an advocate of body work throughout us all speaking here in the Pound Box Report. It's a part of the art of boxing that is still sorely overlooked. And the scores of this fight should Adeleye tell you that it is very, very much underappreciated.
Indeed, I have nothing to add to what you just said. You basically spoke for me in terms of this contest. Could have went either way. Goodman did not get he got no credit for what he did, particularly the first 2/3 of the fight, and that 118, 110, 117, 111. That's just, in a word, ridiculous. Also on this card, the most entertaining fight of the card, Gail, Filip Hrgovic and David Adeleye, right? Hrgovic won, in my opinion, pretty clear, but the scorecards does not really. If you just look at the scorecards, that doesn't give an indication of how entertaining the scrap was, right? Adeleye was there 100% throughout. Round 8 was one of the best rounds of the year, where Hrgovic put him down, but Adeleye, to his credit, he got up and was landing bombs and just basically showed that Hrgovic has a heck of a chin. That woke me up, which was a pretty mundane series of fights beforehand, right? As you mentioned in talking about Itauma, in the early rounds, Hrgovic suffered a nasty cut over his right eye, which made the drama aspect even more entertaining. Very, very entertaining, Scrap Kale.
Really a good fight. Again, if you saved your $50, I don't blame you on this one. Go to YouTube, at least watch the highlights, because you will see a lot of round 8 of this 10-round fight, and it is absolutely going to be on the short list for round of the year. So you're right. Hrgovic and Adeleye, they were very well matched, as it turned out, in all the right ways. And the scores are a little deceiving, because Adeleye is a British and former Commonwealth champion, and in the UK, that's very important. That's very meaningful to British fighters. So he came in with those credentials, but this was a step up for him. And he lost, but his stock went up. He got exposed to a lot bigger audience, which was a plus. In that 8th round, that looks good on his resume. I don't give a damn about that loss. He will be welcome back at that level to see how he matches up against those top 15, top 20, top 10 guys. Hrgovic took that cut. It was from a punch. And this is his second fight and first full camp with Abel Sanchez, former trainer of, most people know him, if you're an OG, as the trainer of Terry Norris, or the trainer of Gennady Golovkin, probably his 2-star pupils along the way, and he had retired. And he sold his gym up in Big Bear to Jaime Munguia, of all things. And he's happily retired and doing whatever he's doing. And Hrgovic talked him out of retirement. He also took on Muhammad Alakel, who was on the deep undercard, and I'm going to mention him later for a particular reason, which I'll hold back on, so stay tuned. So he gets back to that corner, and that cut looked horrible, didn't it? It was bleeding like hell. And I saw an interview with Abel, who said Hrgovic got back to that corner, and he said, I looked at him and I thought, oh, shit. But Abel is a very old school trainer who is also his own cut man. And he is a seriously underrated cut man. He has seen it all. He got that cut so well under control. Michael, Daniel, did you even think about that cut from the maybe 4th round on? It wasn't even a factor. And it looked like it was going to stop the fight when it happened. Sanchez got it handled. Thank God. Now, Hrgovic had to have surgery after the fight to clean it up, and he's not going to be back for a while. But it got him through the fight, and he was in control, but Adeleye was not overwhelmed. He was competitive. Even though he's losing, they both have great chins, as it turns out, so that was a plus. That also made the fight really fun. But Hrgovic cracked him in the 8th, dropped him pretty hard early in the round, I think at about a minute into the round, and you thought, okay, this is going to be done. He's finally worn Adeleye down. And the problem Hrgovic had, and Sanchez has also talked about this a little bit afterwards, Hrgovic cracked him, looked like the fight was going to over. Adeleye got up on very wobbly legs, but the referee allowed him to continue, I think because he had been so competitive. And Hrgovic kind of relaxed. It was kind of, this guy's gone. This is admiring his work. And Adeleye decided this is, my last gasp. And he went after him with everything he had left. And he caught Hrgovic hard, who then was like, oh my God, oh shit. Another oh shit moment for Hrgovic in the fight. And he had to hold. And they both just decided to go to war for the last 60 seconds of the round to see who would be the last man standing. And as it turned out, they both got out of the round, both got to their corners, got a breath, kind of had to coast a little bit into the 9th round and then step it up to finish the fight, which Hrgovic won. But what a great round. It just shows you, again, with the heavyweights, you cannot relax. The punch that Hrgovic dropped Adeleye with, and the same punch that Muhammad Alakel, the young Saudi prospect, got his first knockout with on the opening fight of the main pay-per-view card, was that overhand right to the temple that we all knew and loved from Golovkin. And who do you think taught both those guys that punch? Obviously, Sanchez is working on that in the gym. I love it. I love seeing it. I love having Abel back, even if he's got a limited roster of guys. But boy, when I saw them both landing that punch, you know what they're working on in the gym, and it was highly effective. Highly effective. Really a good win for Hrgovic, but no shame on Adeleye, and I welcome seeing him again anytime.
And to your earlier point, Gail, because of that cut eye, he's going to be out for the rest of the year. It'll be interesting to see what Matchroom does. Let me take that back. Number one, it's problematic that Hrgovic has been cut like this in recent outings. I wonder if they have to maybe do some total reconstruction around the sensitive area over his eye. And because of that, this recent cut, he's going to be out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's a good point, because he has had problems with cuts. And if he needed surgery just to get it closed up, they might just go in there and deal with it now and give him the rest of the year and then some to recover. I mean, if he's going to be out, it's going to need to be dealt with sooner or later.
And it's going to be interesting to see
Good
once he
point.
finally is healed and allowed to fight again, what Matchroom decides to do with him next. He's talked about wanting a rematch with Dubois. Um, the other side of that is he's highly ranked by I think two of the four sanctioning bodies, so he's right there when it comes to a world title shot. But first and foremost, he has to have the issue, get the issue resolved truly and fully with that right eye. Last fight on this particular card, Ray Ford, who, ironically enough, Nick Ball beat Ray Ford to win that featherweight title, right? Ford has moved up to 130, fought Abraham Nova, and I like this version of Ford at 130 pounds. Ford, very solid, very precise in getting a unanimous decision win over Nova Gale. And the reason I like this performance, we were talking about before we hit the live button, I like the little bit more assertive um, Ford in this fight. I love the body work that he did in this contest as well. Leading up to this contest, and really for the last month or so, Ford has talked about wanting to fight WBC 130-pound champion Oshaki Foster. Word on the street is that Foster is likely to fight Stephen Fulton before the end of the year, right? Fulton moving up from 26 to 30. If that fight happens and Foster wins, I would not mind that his next bout being against a Ford. Foster and Ray Ford, competitive scrap as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's consolidate. They want to go for the belts. There's no reason not to. These are all makeable fights. This was a good move for Ford to come up and wait. Having spoken to him, I think you have too. I've spoken to him a couple of times recently, and he likes being up at this weight. He feels his speed has carried. It's allowing him to be more aggressive, and that's a plus for him. He's a solid technician, but he has done well. He has done better, and he does well to be more aggressive. He learned in the fight against Kolmatov when he had to step on the gas and, put himself into the fire. He can do it. He understands he doesn't have to do it to win, but he does have to do it to get eyes on him. And he's feeling it, and it shows. Was this the best fight on the card? Thrilling fight? No. Was it solid? Yes. It was a good test. There are things that both Ford and Abraham Nova do well. They engaged with each other. No Tom and Jerry stuff, right? That, the message has gone out from the Saudis. You're not going to be on our cards if you do that stuff. And Ray got the message. So he's solidly moving himself up into position. And I don't mind that Foster and Fulton settle things first, and then Ray takes on the winner. He has made it real clear he doesn't want to waste a whole lot of time. He wants belts. I do want to see him, however, get rescheduled with Anthony Kakachi, who was the original opponent, remember. Nova stepped in. He was in training. He didn't get off the couch to take the fight, but he did take it on just a couple of weeks' notice. And Kakachi and Ford have been yapping at each other on social media. So I think we will see that fight rescheduled at some point. And hey, maybe they get their fight rescheduled before the end of the year while um, Foster and Fulton go and do their fight. And then we see how the players and the winners, fold out and match each other.
Indeed, let's move on to some news here, and not much because boxing has been so dry, really the last couple of
Well,
months, really
everyone's
throughout the year.
entitled to a summer vacation after all,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But this is getting a little. This is bordering on a little bit of ridiculous. But there is a bit of news. The last emerging news, I would say. The last live episode we did, I believe we talked about Xander Zayas, him winning a world title over on ESPN at 154. Well, during the time that we had off, a couple of days actually after his win, Zayas was chirping back and forth with Vergil Ortiz on Twitter slash X, right? Well, news broke today that there are apparently some early discussions between Golden Boy and Top Rank about a fight between Zayas and Ortiz that could occur maybe in December or early 2026. Look, the complaint about from those who uh, how can I let me rephrase that? One of the complaints about Zayas is that he's had an easy road to the title, that he hadn't been really super tested. Um, if they end up making a fight with Ortiz, we'll certainly get that test, Gail and Daniel. Your thoughts?
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. This is probably the best fight you could say for both men in this aspect because, first of all, it's Mexico versus Puerto Rico. Automatically, you're going to get that heated rivalry going on one aspect. Second, it's Golden One versus Top Rank. You're bringing it back to like the days when Oscar and Bob really didn't like doing business with each other unless they had to. And third, this is a big enough fight for it to be the headliner, especially for Top Rank, of maybe we've talked about this before, maybe the potential return of HBO Championship Boxing. We know there's been talk around when it comes to Top Rank and what will be more the streaming side and the premium cable side of the WWD split. And that would be a fight that you want to have headlined there because Xander Zayas has something to prove. Like you mentioned, that Top Rank has done a decent job in guiding him toward a title, but he still has not, in many people's eyes, proven that he's that guy yet, particularly with the legacy of Puerto Rican fighters. And in Vergil, we know you have a fighter that probably was close to claiming the full belt until the health issue started kicking at 147, probably stuck at 147 a little bit too long. This seems to be a division that fits him better. And we know he's a guy that is willing to take as much as he needs in order to give out his punishment. And he gives out plenty of punishment. So we don't know when this fight's going to happen. But if it's all the players that you need to in order for it to happen. Now, the only factor that could stop this is if the Saudis try to really, really, really take control of it. Because I think Bob at a certain point will just say, no, my guy has the belt, so you guys need to come to me.
Your reaction, Gail, to the fact that this fight could be in play for the end of this year.
I like it. I like the combative nature of the two guys on social yapping at each other. They're setting it up nicely. You know, who had this rivalry at the top of their radar in the last few months? Not me. And suddenly, especially because it's, slow news week in boxing, we're all talking about it. Top Rank right now does not have a broadcast partner. They may soon, but if you notice, they are placing their fighters on other cards. Top Rank and Golden Boy work fine together. They've done it plenty of times. I think this will end up being a co-promotion primarily under Golden Boy's banner, and they will place the fight. Now, will they do it in New York? Maybe. They want to do it out here in the West Coast somewhere to get Vergil's crowd, or do they want to try to do it in Texas? I think that's a distinct possibility. They do business there too. Um, if Golden Boy's in charge, I think they will shy away from putting it in the small room at the Garden, which would be, make a lot of sense. But I think the fight will draw just fine no matter where it happens. And it is an interesting matchup because, yeah, Vergil is absolutely very willing to walk into the fire. Zayas, not quite as much. Vergil may force him to do so, though. It's a great crossroads fight. It has a lot of potential. And, Top Rank has really got to rely on their relationships to make sure their fighters stay busy while they're working out where they're going to go next. And we really do not know. There's a lot of conflicting information. It could be that they decide the negotiations are going to take longer than we've been led to expect. We all assumed we'd see a deal in place by early fall, but if fighters are going to fight in the fall, they need to know now. So they can't wait until a deal is in place and then start making matchups. So this is going to go under Golden Boy's banner on DAZN. That's not a bad thing for Zayas to get exposed to the DAZN audience who may not have seen him under the Top Rank banner on ESPN or ESPN Plus. So I think it's very viable. I do. I am sure talk about it in the weeks to come on this show. And yeah, compliance, you're right. The other discussion is that before Vergil fights Zayas, that he may be fighting Erickson Lubin. There's conflicting information about, there's announcements of a fight versus confirmation of a deal and a signed contract, which are two different things.
Indeed, but I also heard that Lubin's in negotiations to fight. He's number one contender for Murtazalia, I
Yeah, I
believe.
think I think he is, and no one wants to fight Bakram. So, and unfortunately, Bakram is one of the few fighters still under the main events banner. And if you think Top Rank is, out there floating alone on a life raft, the boat's even smaller for main events. So, if they've got an offer, they will take it, and that's not a bad fight. Um, that's a belt available for anybody who wants to step up and give it a go.
Yeah, indeed. Before we move on to preview a fight, because it's going to be a pretty quick episode. You mentioned earlier there was a fighter that you was wanting to discuss while talking about a couple of the earlier bouts, Gail.
And I did. Muhammad Alakal, who is the young Saudi prospect who is now being trained by Abel Sanchez and Big Bear. I mentioned that he's starting to employ that overhand right to the temple and scored his first knockout by that punch. And who taught him? Abel Sanchez.
Indeed. So just wanted to get that out the way. Looking through the boxing landscape, not many significant fights happening this weekend. However, there is one that I want to take note of in Orlando, Florida, on DAZN on the 23rd. The headliner is Yonis Telez versus fighting Abbas Barrow. But on the undercard, Daniel, women's world title fight featuring Stephanie Hahn, who holds the WBA belt, women at 135 for the women. I feature her because when it comes to one women's boxing, 135 is one of the best divisions in women's boxing, in my opinion. With Ferreira, with Caroline Dubois, right? You got Hahn, you got Terry Harper, all holding world belts. The assumption is that Alicia Baumgardner may move up to 135 at some point next year. And Hahn is right there in the mix, undefeated, right? Interesting story in decorated amateur, but she took like a decade off from the sport, got back in, got the found the love of boxing once again, and now she's a world champion. Get a win here, Daniel, and that could lead into some potential fights, some possible unification bouts, if not late next year, certainly in 2026.
Yeah, this is pretty much, even though Hana's a champion, this is pretty much an audition to get a date with Alicia Baumgartner. And 135 has had killers around it when it comes to the women. If Baumgartner doesn't move up, this could be, to me, an audition for Caroline Dubois. And that's going to be a very, very interesting fight because Caroline Dubois has the talent, she has the youth, and she looks to have a bit more of a mean streak than her brother Daniel Dubois. Which, if we've seen boxing siblings in the last few years, that tends to be the case. Like we mentioned, we always had to mention Gabriela Fundora versus her brother Sebastian. Like, she hurts people with mean intentions. So that's very, very telling in that aspect. I do hope Han wins out because taking that break after a while and now coming in and try to step in, I would love it if she gets anybody next.
Your reaction, Gail?
Yeah, Han is a good player in the division. This will be her first title defense after her win to get the title. She's undefeated. She won her title with a knockout, for that matter, which was interesting. She is like several other women's fighters, most notably Delphine Persoon, a full-time police officer fighting. A lot of boxers to this day, and including the women up to the championship level, they have to have another job. But she is now signed with Jake Paul and Most Valuable Promotions, which is really making a point of bringing the most talented female fighters they can sign under their banner. And they have started to amass a really impressive roster of women's boxing. And there are not a lot of other promoters giving them that platform. It is proving to be a good business decision for them. So more power to them. Han's opponent, is fine. She is a decent challenger. She isn't undefeated. She's a Colombian fighter. And she does have some knockouts on her record. So it'll be interesting to see how well they mix it up. Bravo to Jake Paul, who's got 2 cards back to back, Friday and Saturday. A lot of prospects, a lot of minor title defenses, and oh my God, I don't even know between the 2 nights how many interim WBA belts there are on the line. Weren't we going to get rid of all those? Nevertheless, that's where the action in boxing is in the United States this weekend. It's on Friday and Saturday. I think both fights are taking place at the Caribe Royale in Orlando, so they'll at least get 2 nights in a row out of their setup.
And I think we're going to end things on that note. As I said, we're going to have a pretty short episode because there's nothing much happening. Just a Monday after a boxing weekend. I want to thank.
Although you can always find people getting at each other on social media. I mean, if you're really determined, there's always.
I mean that part, but yeah, that can get even boring after a while because all that talking and no real follow up in terms of trying to put a fight together, that means nothing. That's empty calories for me. I want to thank everybody who joined us and commented as well. Compliance and MG. Um, if you are checking us out on YouTube, once again, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to do so. You'll get notifications for all future episodes, right? I'll go around the panel here. We begin the show with ladies first. In the show with ladies first, Gail from nyfights.com. For those who want to talk all things boxing, let the folks know where they can find you.
You know where to find me. It's nyfights.com, nyfights.com. While we're on this summer break, support your local club fights if they are in your neighborhood. Otherwise, get yourself outside, or for God's sakes, go hit the heavy bag yourself, and then we'll see you in the fall.
Yeah, while the weather is still humid, yeah, get your workout on, sweat off a couple extra pounds. I'll go to you, Daniel, for those who want to talk, the sweet science for those who want to talk um, pro wrestling. And as I mentioned early in the show, you recently dropped a new episode of the Inscriber Wrestling Podcast. So for those who want to talk pro wrestling, for those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can find you.
You see it on the social, folks. RWKUZ99, Records 99. All socials, Twitter. Fuck you, Elon. I'm never going to call it X. Facebook, Threads, Spill, Blue Sky. Definitely catch me on there. And, yep, you can talk a little bit, like I said, when it comes to the news. And hopefully we're going to get a lot more things coming up because luckily, Gail did. And we were talking about club shows before the show. My neck of the woods, we're going to have one actually in September. We're Star Boxing. We're going to have one at the Paramount Theater in Huntington, New York. One of the best venues that you can get for club boxing on Long Island. And we're definitely going to make sure to get these cards alive because club shows are the lifeblood of boxing. It is not pay-per-views. It is not supercards. It is the club shows. It is where champions are forged. It is where they're made, and people need to support them.
Preach it.
Indeed.
Slow
And
clap.
if you go, and if you go, take some pics for on behalf of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Throw them on the Facebook and Twitter and IG page for those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and occasionally fragrance. You know, fragrance smell good. You know what it is with me, Brother JR at Brother JR76 because like Daniel, I refuse to call it X. It is Twitter always. Your mama called it Twitter. I'ma call it Twitter. You can also check me out on IG, Brother JRSC, as well as Blue Sky, Brother JR76 on the next episode. We will talk Stephanie Hahn and her upcoming title defense. And it's actually a pretty decent card. I just didn't feel like talking about all the other fights there. Hahn fighting Paulina Angel. Jermaine Ortiz is fighting on that card. Lucas Body, Canadian lightweight, hard-hitting Canadian lightweight, is fighting on that card as well. It's also Yankiel Figueroa, world rank 112-pounder. So we will talk about, if we do a show next week, we will talk about those bouts because there's nothing really happening on the following weekend. So again, I want to thank everybody who joined us and had their comments for this particular episode. Again, shout out to Compliance Wrestling and Roofing. Shout out to MG. For Gail of nyfights.com, for Daniel of For Boxing News and the Inscriber. I am your host, Michael. This has been episode 473 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.